Good morning, I'm Gretchen Paul. We're coming to you this Friday on the 10th day of October, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matters. Get to the stories that matter today. The Philippine Ports Authority is under fire from Senator Raffy Tulfo over its purchase of body cameras worth nearly 1 million pesos apiece. Moreover, the supplier for the project was previously flagged by the Commission on Audit in a past deal involving defective equipment. Following the exposure of billions or even trillions in corruption within flood control programs, the list of questionable government programs is growing. Investigations are now expanding to include anomalies in farm-to-market road projects and healthcare facilities. And as more anomalies are uncovered, we ask, what is the public sentiment? Where is the trillion peso march ultimately headed? Joining us later to analyze the situation is Bishop Efraim Tendero of the Evangelical Churches of the Philippines. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first in the agenda, Senator Raffy Tulfo slammed the Philippine Ports Authority over body cameras priced at nearly 1 million pesos apiece. More details in this report.
During the budget briefing of the Department of Transportation on Thursday, Senator Raffy Tulfo questioned the Philippine Ports Authority for purchasing body-worn cameras worth 879,000 pesos each.
879,000 pesos isang unit. Although ginastify niyo yan sa COA, marami kayong mga nilagay, kung ano-ano mga requisitos, pero still 879,000 pesos one unit lang.
According to Tulfo, the PPA procured 191 body cameras in 2020 and an additional 164 units in 2021 under a contract with Boston Home Incorporated, a company that was previously flagged by the Commission on Audit for selling supposed defective equipment to the Environmental Management Bureau.
Ito ay na-flag na ng COA na nagbenta ng defective equipment sa EMB.
PPA General Manager J. Daniel Santiago defended the purchase. He claimed the cameras came with an integrated system, including servers, which justified the high cost. But Tulfo maintained that similar cameras used by the Philippine National Police only cost around 135,000 pesos. The senator also claimed that Boston Home operates out of an apartment and has only 10 million pesos in capital based on Securities and Exchange Commission records. He then urged Transportation Secretary Giovanni Lopez to launch an investigation and remove officials involved in the allegedly anomalous procurement.
Mr. Chair, you have my commitment that I'm going to look into this, especially the post-qual of the TWG and the BAC, Mr. Chair.
Heads must roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Heads must roll indeed. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is calling for an investigation into alleged anomalies in the country's farm-to-market road projects. More details in this report.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian said he would recommend to the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee and the Independent Commission for Infrastructure to investigate alleged anomalies in the country's farm-to-market road projects. He revealed that around 10.3 billion pesos worth of projects implemented in 2023 and 2024 may have been overpriced. Gatchalian cited a project in Barangay San Roque, Tacloban City, which reportedly costs 348,432 pesos per meter, far above the Department of Public Works and Highway standard rate of 10,000 to 15,000 pesos per meter.
Una, ayaw ko nga maniwala eh. Kasi 300 million per kilometer, parang gumawa ka na ng tulay nun eh.
The senator also disclosed that 3 contractors behind these projects are the same firms that received 20% of the 545 billion peso flood control budget flagged by President Bongbong Marcos. Among them is High-Tone Construction and Development Corporation, allegedly linked to former Ako Bicol Representative Zaldico.
Top rice granary natin, walang projects na FMR. No? Yung mga hindi na sa top, yun ang nabibigyan. No? So, para sa akin, if you think about itong nangyayari sa flood control, at yung mga personalities involved, tulad ng SunWest, tulad ng High-Tone, hindi katakataka na nalagay ang pinakamalaking allocation ng FMR sa Bicol area.
Meanwhile, Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon revealed that 421 out of 8,000 flood control projects initially inspected nationwide were found to be ghosts projects. Dizon said many of the ghost projects were located in Luzon. He emphasized that these are only preliminary figures, as around 100,000 projects still need to be validated.
Yung ghost kasi yun ang low-hanging fruit yun. Meaning madaling i-establish yung liability and accountability kapag ghost project. No? Kasi ghost nga. No? Hindi na mahaba yung no? yung case build-up nun. So mas mabilis tayo hopefully makakapag-file ng mga kaso.
ICI Executive Director Brian Hosaka noted that this new information will help the Commission set a clearer direction for its ongoing investigations.
Kung meron mga ibang distrito or regions na pwede namin tignan, kompleto na yung mga dokumento at mga ebidensya din, puntahan natin yan. No? Now with this direction now na meron tayong 421 ghost projects, mas mapapadali yan.
Mamamayang Liberal Party List Representative Laila De Lima said it is high time to push for stronger anti-corruption laws. In an interview with The Big Story, De Lima pointed out that aside from questionable flood control projects, there are also what she called haunted hospitals. These are health facilities that were either left unfinished or completed, but remain unmanned due to lack of personnel. De Lima added that she will support legislation requiring all public officials to make their statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth accessible to the public.
The progressive forces in the House of Representatives have to really be determined to push for all these kinds of bills. In fact, this budget process is now being more capable and sensitive about what the people want. They know that the people are watching.
Newly minted Ombudsman Jesus Crispin Boying Remulla vows to pursue high-profile corruption cases without fear or favor. Here's the report.
Jesus Crispin Boying Remulla is officially the 7th Ombudsman of the Philippines. He took his oath before Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Marvic Leonen, who reminded the former DOJ chief to uphold integrity and vigorously fight corruption. And on his first day on the job, Remulla promises to get the ball rolling on the flood control scandal. As early as next week, he vows to file cases against personalities being tagged in the mess with the help of anti-graft court Sandigan Bayan.
Ang timeline niya, syempre, on the evidence pa rin eh. Pero marami na naman kami nakukuha na evidence. Talagang sisikapin lang namin na mabuo ng gusto. Kasi nga ayaw namin na kami maging cause ng delay. Pag nag-file kami, ready kami for trial.
No fear or favor in the pursuit of cases against the country's top officials. Remulla promises no sacred cows in the probe, whether they be friends, relatives, or even political allies of the one who appointed him to the powerful post, President Bongbong Marcos.
Wala ho tayong sinisino rito. Kung mataas man o mababa, kahit umabot na senador yan, kung saan maabutin yan, gagawin natin.
So sir, kahit kamag-anak po ng Pangulo na talaga po sa...
Wala naman tayong choice dito, yun ang ebidensya. Pwede ba natin i-deny ang ebidensya?
Ombudsman Remulla is also laying down the groundwork to make SALINs accessible to the public. 5 years ago, Ombudsman Memorandum Circular Number 1 placed restrictions on access to statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth of officials. The Supreme Court, Senate, House of Representatives, and a few other agencies followed suit and have required notarized forms from requesters of such documents.
Hihingi tayo sa lahat ng requesting parties undertaking na hindi gagamitin ito sa paraan na hindi makakabuti sa bayan. Kasi baka mamaya maging political noise lang yan.
Meantime, Remulla says he is still in favor of Senator Erwin Tulfo's much-talked-about bending the law statement, wherein he called for contractors Curly and Sara Diskay to just give up funds they allegedly stole from government even without a court case.
Bending the law but not breaking the law. Diba? Ano yan eh? It's a figure of speech. That is the entitlement of the senator who asked me that question. But I made sure that he's not asking me to break the law.
Remulla has a fixed tenure of 7 years and will remain ombudsman until the year 2032. Kapatid Camille Samonte, We Are One News.
And coming right up, ICC Victims Council agrees to form a medical panel to assess former President Rodrigo Duterte's alleged cognitive impairment. We'll discuss that with ICC accredited lawyer Joel Butuyan. Don't go away. Morning Matters will be back. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. The legal representative of potential victims before the International Criminal Court has agreed to form a panel of medical experts to assess former President Rodrigo Duterte's alleged cognitive impairment. The Office of the Public Counsel for Victims said the panel should include a forensic psychiatrist, a neuropsychologist, and behavioral neurologist to evaluate Duterte's mental fitness to stand trial. The OPCV said the experts' findings would help determine if Duterte needs special measures during the trial, but rejected the inclusion of a gerontologist, saying the issue concerns mental capacity and not age. Duterte's lawyers opposed the proposal, calling for a forensic cross-examination and insisting that both sides be allowed to present their own medical experts. And to provide insights into the matter, we have ICC accredited lawyer Joel Butuyan joining us this morning. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Welcome back to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen, and thanks for having me.
Okay, help us understand first this latest development, the proposal of a panel of medical experts to assess the former president's cognitive condition. Ano po ito? Dahil galing po ito sa OPCV, ito na po yung nagsisilbing prosecution from the victim's point of view. Iba po ba ito sa sa prosecution themselves?
Gretchen, there are actually several parties in the ongoing ICC proceedings against the former president. No, unang-una, the defense, representing Mr. Duterte, and then second, yung prosecution, which will handle the criminal aspect of the case. And then pangatlo, yung victims counsel, who represents the interest of the victims and who will convey the views and concerns of the victims. Ngayon, by way of background, what happened in this particular issue is that in August 8, the defense filed a request for indefinite adjournment. Kumbaga, gusto nilang matigil yung proceedings dahil sinasabi nila na hindi mentally fit si Mr. Duterte to stand trial. Sumagot yung OPCV, yung Victims Counsel, saka yung prosecutor. Sabi nila na base doon sa may ebidensya na present, yung mga experts supposedly na present ng defense, it's not clear, inconclusive na medically unfit si Mr. Duterte. Gayunpaman, pumayag sila na mag-appoint ng panel of medical experts, yung korte, para talagang ma-assess kung talagang mentally fit. So, makikita natin talagang sobrang fair yung proceedings na to dahil kahit na burden of proof ng defense at kahit na yung ebidensya ng defense ay hindi sufficient to show na medically unfit si Mr. Duterte, pumayag pa rin yung prosecution at yung Victims Counsel na yung court magpa-appoint ng panel of experts.
Correct. Oo. So, ito po ay argument po nila na tatlong expert, forensic psychiatry, neuropsychology, and behavioral neurology. Do you agree with those experts? And is this the same? Ano po yung parang pinagdedebatihan po dito ng defense at ng prosecution when it comes to these experts? Is it merely the choice of people but not the actual expertise?
Gretchen, kasi ang nangyari is yung order ng pre-trial chamber, medyo general, nagpa-submit sa registry, which is like the clerk of court sa atin, ng recommended experts together with their fields of expertise, and from this list of experts with medical expertise, pipili yung chamber, So, tatlo yung pinili na expertise ng registry, pero meron pang additional na mga pangalan kasi 11 yung pangalan na sinubmit ng registry, na iba-ibang expertise. Magkakaiba yung expertise nila. Merong neurology, merong forensic psychiatry, behavioral neurology, tapos meron pa yung geriatric medicine, no? So, nagkomento yung Victims Council na sinasabi niya na hindi na kailangan yung geriatric expert dahil meron naman talagang experts within the detention facility na nag-address dito sa may expertise sa need for geriatric care.
So, yung forensic psychiatry, if you take a look at the expertise of that, no, subspecialty po yan that applies to expertise to legal matters focusing on the intersection of mental health and the law. Yung pangalawa po ay neuropsychology. It studies the relationship between the brain, behavior, and cognition, examining how the nervous system impacts a person's thinking, emotion, and actions. At yung pangatlo, behavioral neurology, yan po ay subspecialty that studies how the brain damage and diseases affect behavior, memory, and cognitive functions. Agree po ba kayo dun sa tatlo? At wag na po isama yung gerontology?
Yo. Agree ako dun sa tatlo, Gretchen, kasi talagang yung issue dito is yung mental fitness niya, no? Kasi kung physical fitness, there can be modalities or adjustments that can be made. In fact, meron ng recommendation yung medical officer ng detention facility doon sa may gagawin nilang adjustments, no? To provide for the comfort and the convenience of Mr. Duterte even when he is required to attend the trial, no? So talaga ang question na lang is yung mental fitness niya, no? To really participate in the forthcoming confirmation hearing.
That's correct. So, pagdating po dito sa pating ito, ano po yung ino-oppose ng defense? Sabi po niya, Duterte's lawyers oppose the proposal calling for a forensic cross-examination and insisting that both sides be allowed to present their own medical experts. So, are they contesting ito pong experts na pinili po ng prosecution or yung choice po ng tao?
Hindi sila nagko-commit, no? Hindi sila approve dun sa mga recommendations ng registry, pati yung recommendations ng prosecutor, and they want to present their own experts.
Okay.
Yung nangyayari.
Oo. But how do we achieve, how do we make sure that there's impartiality in the choice of experts? Is this usual na it is the registry that is the one choosing the medical experts? At saan po sila kaya kukuha?
Yung ginagawa ng registry, Gretchen, is nagpro-provide sila ng listahan. No? Parang sa atin, parang yung JBC, yung Judicial Bar Council, na magpro-provide sila ng nominees, and out of these nominees, choice ng court to as to who to appoint, no? Parang yung sa JBC na nagpo-provide sila ng nominees for judges and then it's the president who appoints.
Okay.
Parang ganun yung mangyayari. And in fact, meron talagang list of experts sa ICC. So talagang pipili na talaga yung registry out of this list of experts.
Okay. And then added to that, speaking of the ICC registry, they said in an 8-page document dated September 30 that the medical officer cited by the defense does not possess the requisite of a detained person's fitness or to assess detained person's fitness to stand trial. So ano naman po yung debate dun po sa medical officer na sinite po ng defense?
Yung medical officer kasi, Gretchen, ito yung talagang nakatutok doon sa detention facility, no? So talagang they attend to the day-to-day medical needs and care of the detainees. Pero hindi sila experts, hindi sila forensic psychiatrists, hindi sila neuropsychologists. Kumbaga, they will not be in a position to testify kung fit nga si Duterte or not.
Okay, and according to the registry, this medical officer recommended several modalities regarding Duterte's presence in court, which were redacted in the court document. Would you have any idea as to what the recommendations those were?
Karen, I think this would only refer to the physical conveniences that are going to be adjusted, no, to address the age of Mr. Duterte as an 80 years old attending a trial, which could last for like the whole day, no? So, kumbaga yung physical comfort niya, kumbaga yung adjustments that are going to be provided and recommended by the medical officer.
But what options does the former president have? Could he attend these online just like how he did the first time? Or is it a matter of like shortening the hours?
I would guess that those would be among the considerations, no? Pero talagang ang general rule is the accused has to attend the trial physically, the hearings physically, no? And only in extreme circumstances will he be allowed to participate remotely via online procedures.
Well, Attorney, you represent some of the victims here. What have you heard about the former president's health? Siyempre, isa pong pinag-uusapan ng lahat ay yung ito nga pong nahulog daw ang dating presidente sa loob ng ICC detention center. What would you know about that?
Well, unang-una, Gretchen, ang dami talagang dismayado doon sa pagka-postpone ng hearing, no? Talagang they were really preparing. And in fact, some of the victims went to The Hague to really witness, no? The confirmation hearings, no? And marami rin talagang affected sa mga fake news that obviously are meant to appeal to emotion for the benefit of Mr. Duterte. So talagang naapektuhan rin yung mga biktima, no? Dahil ang dami-daming fake news talaga. And nakikita rin nila na talagang these are meant, no, to benefit Mr. Duterte.
You're right. There's a lot of confusion over the facts of the president's health, former president's health, and what's coming out, no? Kasi we have several people, including, for example, Attorney Nicholas Kaufman, that the Malacanang has said, no, has been already confused with his facts and has a tendency to twist the truth. So one of the things that he said was that Duterte was allegedly intimidated by an individual inside the ICC detention center, and he also stated now that he was not shown any written consent for the release of the facts of the former president's medical information. So, pagdating naman po doon, ano pong ninyo? Palagay po ninyo?
Alam mo, Gretchen, talagang issue talaga itong mga sobrang half-truths na minsan nanggagaling kay Mr. Kaufman. In fact, doon sa may issue ng yung pagsabi niya na pumayag ang Pilipinas, ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas to interim release, na previously sinabi niya rin na yung prosecutor pumayag, may nakikitang pattern, no, yung na talagang ginagamit niya itong ICC procedures, no, to sow disinformation and affect the victims' interest in the trial. Kaya nga nagkaroon ng malaking grupo ng mga NGOs who called for the imposition of disciplinary sanctions against Mr. Kaufman. Oo. Doon naman sa may sinabi niya na hindi nabigyan ng consent o hindi nagbigay ng consent si Mr. Duterte doon sa release ng kanyang medical records, no? Yung registry mismo, I think even from the redacted submissions, nagsabi na si Mr. Duterte nag-provide ng written consent, no, to the use and disclosure of his medical records in the detention facility. So hindi ko talaga alam kung saan nagagaling si Mr. Kaufman in saying na walang consent si Mr. Duterte.
And help us understand, no, the legal strategy of the defense here. Why are they taking this route? It is delaying everything from the confirmation of charges to the trial itself, where fitness to stand trial will apply. Bakit po kaya ganito? No? Kung sakasakali pong tama po kayo na yung facts are being bent here, what could be the legal strategy?
Alam mo, Gretchen, sa mga abogado, kung mahina sa merito yung kaso mo, ibabato mo lahat ng technicalities to really try to stop the case from proceeding to trial. And we cannot blame many of the victims and many of the human rights lawyers in believing that this is the strategy of the defense, no? That they're trying to throw every technical procedure, every perceived technical deficiency to try and stop the case from proceeding to trial. Dahil kapag nag-umpisa yung trial at lalabas lahat yung mga testigo at sasabihin nila lahat yung mga baho ni Mr. Duterte, ay talagang I think it will affect, no? It will affect the perception even of the DDS. No? Dahil marami sa mga DDS, hindi nila alam kung gaano karumal-dumal yung pinagagawa ni Mr. Duterte at ng kanyang mga co-perpetrators during the drug war.
But is mental or cognitive impairment one of the possible reasons that an interim release could be granted? Kasi kung yun po, para nakikita ko po na tumatagal lamang, hindi naman po makakalaya ang dating presidente doon sa detention center. So ito po ba ay posibleng maging dahilan ng kanyang pag-grant ng interim release niya?
Actually, Gretchen, dalawang issue, no? Yung inihain ng defense. Unang-una, they are requesting for the indefinite adjournment. Kumbaga, indefinite postponement ng kaso. Effectively, parang dismissal ng kaso, yung kanilang hinihingi dito sa issue ng mental fitness ni Mr. Duterte, no? Ang kanilang fallback, kung hindi nila makukuha itong indefinite adjournment, yung interim release, no? Na kung sakaling sasabihin na mentally fit si Mr. Duterte, ang fallback nila is, sige, i-interim release natin siya para makalabas siya and merong mag-aalaga sa kanya sa labas.
And when it comes to the indefinite adjournment, I mean, meron na po ba tayong precedents on this? How has the ICC trial chamber decided on cases where the accused has cognitive impairment?
Merong isang kaso that was cited by the Public Counsel for Victims. The name escapes me right now. Pero binigyan ng indefinite adjournment only after several tries, no? Kumbaga, it lingered nung una, dininay, tapos pangalawa, dininay din, on a third attempt, saka grinant, no? So it spanned, I think, a period of time bago grinant, no? And Gretchen, itong indefinite adjournment, hindi ito final, no? Dahil every 6 months, every 12 months, no? Ina-assess ulit, no? Kung it still lingers at kung sa tingin nila ay mentally fit na, pwedeng i-resume yung trial.
Pero hindi po makakalaya yung accused?
Kapag hindi permanent yung finding na talagang permanently unfit siya, hindi siya makakalaya, Gretchen.
So in effect, wala pong dismissal na mangyayari dito. It's just more of like lengthening the time before justice could be served.
That's correct, Gretchen. Unless talaga na sasabihin ng mga panel of experts na talagang wala nang pag-asa and talagang permanently medical unfit talaga itong accused.
And the way things are going, it seems they're trying to make the conditions for the former president at least livable and at least pleasant, no? So mukhang ganun po ang pinupuntahan nito. But we'll wait as we always do. In the meantime, thank you so much for helping us understand the latest coming out from the ICC and The Hague. Thank you for your time and insight. We have ICC accredited lawyer Joel Butuyan representing the victims, of course.
Thank you, guys.
In other news, residents living in 10 cities in earthquake-hit Cebu are now falling ill after days of exposure to heat and rain. Many families have reported cases of cough, fever, and skin rashes among children due to unsanitary conditions and lack of proper shelter. Some survivors have been forced to stay under plastic tarps after running out of available tents. The Cebu provincial government has assured that there are enough medicines for affected localities.
Iba-iba yung panahon, umuulan, minsan mainit. Iba-iba po yung naranasan mga tao dito. Minsan lang po, nanghingi lang po sa mayroong gamot, ganyan. Kasi kailangan po.
Sobrang hirap kasi wala kaming masilungan. Trapal lang po kami.
So, magtitiis kayo dito?
Oh, dito lang muna kami.
Meanwhile, the Department of Budget and Management has released about 716 million pesos to the DSWD to replenish its quick response fund for disaster-hit areas. The DBM said the move is meant to ensure the continuous delivery of food, shelter, and cash aid to families affected by recent storms and the southwest monsoon. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Kenan has exited the Philippine area of responsibility. It was last spotted 1,355 kilometers east-northeast of extreme northern Luzon. Pag-asa says it is less likely to directly affect the weather condition in the country. Still, several weather systems will bring rains across the nation today. Visayas, Mindanao, and Palawan will experience downpour due to the southwesterly wind flow. The trough of the LPA will bring rains over Metro Manila, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Bicol Region, and the rest of Mimaropa. Meantime, localized thunderstorms will affect the rest of Luzon. Up next, religious and civil society groups under the Trillion Peso March movement are kicking off weekly protests starting today, calling for accountability over the flood control corruption scandal. We'll speak with the Evangelical Churches of the Philippines Bishop Efraim Tendero when Morning Matters returns. Stay tuned here on One News. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Juan here on Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. The Department of Public Works and Highways has uncovered at least 421 ghost or non-existent projects from its inspection of around 8,000 flood control structures nationwide. Public Works Secretary Vince Diesel said the number could still rise, with thousands more yet to be validated. Meanwhile, religious and civil society groups affiliated with the Trillion Peso March movement are launching weekly protests to demand accountability over the alleged flood control corruption scandal. Starting today and every Friday, the groups will hold noise barrages and candle lighting activities leading up to a nationwide rally on November 30. And to talk more about this, we have on the show Evangelical Churches of the Philippines Bishop Efraim Tendero, one of the conveners of the Trillion Peso March. Good morning, Bishop. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and share with you yung ating panawagan for our mga kababayan para patuloy na hilingin or continue to ask for accountability, truth and accountability and justice in relation to this issue on corruption.
Bishop, tell us more about the weekly protests that you are planning and who will be there?
So every week, starting today, every Friday, we ask people to wear white. Why white? In our fight against corruption, we have no political color. That's why we say white is a symbol of integrity, of purity, accountability, and we are asking people to wear white every Friday. Now, in order to catch the attention and to really create that kind of expression of the revulsion of the people, we are asking people also to have a nice barrage at 6 o'clock in the evening. They can just gather even in the street corners or wherever they are, or even in their homes. They can just clang whatever kettle or whatever would create that noise. And then there will also be the bells in the churches will be tolling in order to really call the attention that yes, our people are really fighting against this massive, in fact, unthinkable, humongous corruption that has been happening in our country. And then that will be every Friday, leading up to the organizing of the nationwide simultaneous protest march on November 30, because we want it not only here in Metro Manila, but in key cities all over the Philippines. People will have an opportunity to call for account for the issue of corruption in this country.
Pero ito pong weekly protest, saan po ito magaganap?
We want this to be in different places. So it will be either small groups or in big gatherings, but we want every person. So it is decentralized. Because
Wala pong main area where you will be at, where the main figures of the Trillion Peso March will be at.
So the weekly march starting today will be either in parishes or in communities or barangays, because we want every person, every Filipino, to be aware that they can, that we are part of the sovereign people. As the sovereign people of the Philippines, we are speaking and standing against corruption. So we want katotohanan, we want katarungan, and we want kalayaan. Yan, if you remember yung song ng Apo Hiking Society in 1986, we want na magkaroon talaga ng peaceful protests in order to bring to account and bring to hindi lang yung mga perpetrators, kundi pati masterminds. Kasi ang tagal-tagal na ng investigation. Nilabas umpisa noong July or after the SONA, July 26, nagpalabas na ang presidente na sabi, mahiya naman kayo. Pagkatapos sinabi niya, ito yung 15 contractors. Pero ang tagal-tagal na, nakailang buwan na yung investigation. Bakit napakabagal ng investigation? Kung meron ng lumalabas na nagsalita na yung ibang mga contractors, nag-name na sila, bakit medyo mahina pa, hindi pa masyadong umuusad. Magkaroon na ng filing ng kaso, bigyan na ng kumari nga. Di ba sa opisina, pag may nakikitang problema, meron kang preventive suspension. Bakit na kailangan magkaroon na ng preventive arrest? Para hindi pa buo yung kaso, but we want to prevent you from being attacked by the people. We want to give you the preventive arrest. Kung merong preventive suspension, baka naman magkaroon na ng ganong action din. So, by creating this movement every week to sustain, para hindi ibig sabihin, habang tumatagal, baka naman habang tumatagal, mawala na yung damdamin ng mga tao. If you remember, Gretchen, 10 years ago, there was this PDAP case o yung kaso with Senator Napoles, di ba? Ang sinabi ng Napoles, actually, yung kanyang listahan ng kanyang listahan na kanyang kakutsaba sa Kongreso, may kulang-kulang o mahigit atang 100. That list was given by Napoles to Secretary De Lima of DOJ during that time and to Senator Ping Lacson during that time. Pero ang kanilang ginawa, 4 lang yung kanilang kinasuhan. Ay yung 3 ay naabsuelto pa. Anong nangyari? Paano naman yung 100 na nakasama dun sa listahan niya? Ngayon, lumalabas na nagsabi na yung mga diskaya na meron silang 17 na minention na congressman at meron ngayon sinabi rin ng mga senador. Pero sinabi rin ni Senator Lacson, majority o halos lahat daw ng senators ay nagkaroon ng insertion sa 2025 budget o sa iba pang sa previous budget. Bakit meron ng mga ganitong lead, hindi pa tayo nagkakaroon ng action? Tapos, ating panawagan, hindi lamang ng simbahang evangelical, ng Catholic, at maging ang Iglesia, nagpasabi na kung maaari, pwede bang yung hearing ng, o yung procedure ng ICI will be made public? Kasi gustong malaman ng tao kung anong nangyayari. Ayaw natin mangyari na para bang may niluluto ba dito, inililihis ba tayo, sino ang dapat managot at ano ang dapat na gawin, dahil habang tumatagal, ang mga tao ay patuloy naghihirap at ayaw natin na maililihis ang paraan ng investigasyon. Dapat doon dumating talaga na pati yung masterminds ay makasama. Hindi lamang yung mga engineers, district engineers, contractor. Kung talagang sinabing may involved na political leaders, ay dapat panagutin natin to. So sabi nga namin...
Bishop, oo. Ay, yun nga po, no, marami po kayo nabanggit, no? Pero naalala ko po nung huli, nung September 21, medyo nagiging united naman yung mga tao sa kanilang panawagan na sana may makulong. May managot, may makulong. Yun po yung parang chant ng mga tao. This time around, no, you mentioned several goals and objectives that you want, or several calls for government. And if you take a look at the whole problem, isn't it too tremendous, or rather the blanket has been cast, or the net has been cast wide, that people are confused now? Kumbaga, pag tumingin po tayo doon sa problema ng korupsyon, masyadong malawak at malalim po ito. Marami pong involved dito. In the same way, ito po mga protest, ano po ba talaga yung parang hinahangad po natin? Pag marami po tayong pinag-uusapan dito, hindi po ba mawawala rin po yung lakas nung panawagan na yun, dahil nalilito na ang taong bayan. Kung saan ba tayo magsisimula, unang-una, how do we begin to demand accountability, and pangalawa, how do we move on from here, given we know that we have a broken system at hand that is prone to abuse left and right?
Well, una nga, meron na tayong lead. Ang ating Pangulo nagsabi na eto na yung top contractors, na 15 sila, 20% ng ating flood control projects na corner ng 15 contractor. At nung mag-umpisa magkaroon ng investigation, nagsalita na yung mga contractor. Nagsabi na pati yung mga nasa yung district engineers. Nag-umpisa nga doon sa Bulacan, tapos nandun sa Oriental sa Mindoro, tapos nandun sa Davao. Ngayon, ang balak atang isunod ay ang Ilocos Norte. So, ibig sabihin, hindi lang naman sa isang probinsya o sa ibang lugar, kundi buong Pilipinas na ito. Ang ating kahilingan, pwede ba na pabalisin yung proseso ng investigation? Kaya, ngayong natatag na yung ating bagong ombudsman, ang ating kahilingan, sinabi naman ni Ombudsman Boying Rimulya na wala tayong sasantuhin. Wala tayong sasantuhin. They have all the powers. At kung ang presidente ay nagbigay ng marching order, ay dapat ay mabilisan na ito. In fact,
hindi po kayo, ibig sabihin, hindi po kayo masaya sa takbo ng ICI. Given na po, meron na po sila mga recommendations dito, they're calling in, ito pa nga po, mga contractors, mga senador, mga congressmen, and meron na po silang lookout bulletin. Hindi po kayo masaya doon sa kung paano gumagulong po ito?
Kasi nag-umpisa yan, August, September, October na ngayon, 3 buwan. Kung talagang gustong pabilisin yung proseso ng investigation, kung magkakaroon ka na tinatawag nating at least prima facie evidence, may nagsabi na yun, at least yung mga district engineers na nagsabi na, yung contractor, si Diskaya, bakit hindi agad sasabing, kasuhan na yan, ipakulong na yan, habang i-detain na yan. Ngayon, kasi pag nagkaroon na ng kaso, at least gugulong na yung proseso. Kasi pagka puro investigation, batuhan dito, batuhan doon, pero kung meron kang bigyan talaga ng kaso, nakakulong, ay magkakaroon ng pagkakataon that they can have the time to defend themselves in court and have the due process. Habang tumatagal, ay parang nagkakaroon tuloy na, ano ba ito, dinidribble lang ba ito? At hindi natin alam kung anong patutunguhan. Kaya ang kahilingan natin, ay pabalisin yung investigasyon. At yun nga, yung ICI, ang kahilingan natin kung maaari maging public. Kung hindi man public, meron talagang yung transcript of the investigation lalabas, makikita natin. Alam nyo nung magsabi ang Pangulo, isumbong sa Pangulo, I think ang nagbigay na entries nun mga 25,000. So, ibig sabihin ang mga tao, nakikita nila yung mga pangyayari. Ano ang pwedeng gagawin? Naiinip na po tayo. At baka naman sa pagdili-dali, ay baka dumating sa point na, anyway, magpapasko na naman, wala na, medyo malamig na ang simoy ng hangin, makakalimutan na ito. Hindi tayo papayag na yung trilyon na involved in this corruption, nagdudusa tayo. I think sa report ay ang nautang na ng ating pamahalaan in the last few years is umabot na ng 4 na trilyon ang nautang. Ay sinong magbabayad ng inutang na yan? Pagkatapos nun, di ba, lumabas na maging ang ating stock exchange, biglang nag-crash in this past week.
Ito po ay fake news daw po.
Fake news daw. Pero talaga namang nag-crash, pero ang fake news lang hindi more than 1 trillion.
Hindi naman po siguro crash yung term, baka bumaba po.
Bumaba.
Yung value,
Kaya nga,
yung halaga.
pero kung bumaba ng 480 billion, kasi yun ang clarification ngayon, 480 billion yung bumaba doon sa ating stock market in 1 week. Malaking flight ng ng investment sa ating bansa. So,
pero ano po, alam po natin, kung mahuli man po natin yung mga tao na sangkot dito at napakarami po nila. Pero kung hindi niyo po binago yung sistema, ay maaari pa rin mangyari ulit yung ganong klaseng korupsyon. So what are your proposals for reform here?
Ang ating proposal for reform dito ay una nga, mabilisan natin yung proseso. Yung nangyari kay Napoles, matuto tayo doon. Nagkaroon na ng desisyon ang Supreme Court after that, declaring PDAP to become as unconstitutional. Anong ginawa nitong mga nakaraang administrasyon? Hindi lang yung ngayon, pati yung nakalipas na administrasyon. Gumawa sila ng creative way of not calling it PDAP, calling it unprogrammed funds. Di ba? Infrastructure project. Pero ganun din yun. It's still
yung matanggal po yung mga ganon.
Oo, dapat matanggal yung ganon. Dahil ang trabaho ng legislature magbusisi ng budget. Pero hindi sila dapat ang nag-allocate kung saan, kung kanino. At kung merong, di ba nagsabi, ang mga nag-sponsor ng project na yun sa Congress o sa Senado ay tumatanggap ng thank you note. Actually, hindi. Ang tawag na thank you note. Parang maganda pang pakinggan, thank you note. Pero, kickback yun. Ibig sabihin, may binigay kami project sa inyo, ano yung back na ibibigay sa amin? Anong komisyon na ibibigay sa amin?
Bishop, in September 21, there were reports that came out that there would have been or possibility that a coup was going to be, or rather there was a coup in the offing, pero hindi po pumayag yung military leadership.
Yan, kasi yung mga nagsasuggest ng coup, maraming mag-uusap-usap ng ganon, kasi nakalagay naman dun sa ating constitution that the Armed Forces of the Philippines is the protector of the people and of the state. Now, kung makikita natin dun sa scripture that the government is instituted by God, and dapat po tayo ay magpasakop sa government because the government is the servant of God. Actually, the word that was used there is minister or servant of God. For what purpose? The government is there to protect what is good and to punish evil. Now, if the government is no longer promoting what is good or protecting what is good, and rather they are gumagawa ng systemic evil, then they lose their divine mandate for governance. They lose their divine responsibility. They are remiss in terms of their responsibility of protecting the good of the people and punishing evil. And yun siguro ang sinasabi nila that the armed forces of the Philippines can use that provision in the Constitution. Ngayon, siguro, ayaw naman natin na military adventurism lang ang gagawin. Ang kinakailangan talaga is make sure magkaroon ng maayos, reconstructive process na yung ating governance ay masasabi nating magiging maayos, kagalang-galang. Kung babasahin lang natin yung ating preamble ng ating Constitution, we the sovereign Filipino people imploring the aid of the Almighty God. Tapos, ang daming values na nakalagay doon.
Pero, Bishop, wala pong kumakausap sa inyo to push things in that direction. Kung sakasakali po, wala pong mangyari dito sa mga investigasyon na ito, what could happen?
Hindi, kaya nga tayo ngayon tumatawag na ang mga tao pumunta to the streets. Dahil hindi tayo pwedeng manahimik. Although, sabi ng mga kausap kong mga manggagawa, Bishop, kasi kami yung isang araw na hindi kami magtrabaho, wala kaming kakainin. Kaya sabi namin, sama-sama tayo nagsasakripisyo dito. Kaya nga pinipili namin yung holiday. Para yung holiday ay at least hindi nagtatrabaho. Although, yung iba naman gusto magtrabaho ng holiday dahil may dobleng bayad pagka-holiday. So yung mga mahihirap sabi nila, isang araw na hindi kami magtrabaho, wala kaming kakainin. Tapos ito namang trillion, billion na nagpapasasa, pambili ng payong, mahal yung payong, kaya libre naman ng kotse. Kaya, ibig sabihin, kaya umiiyak na mga tao, umiiyak na tayo.
Bishop, alam po natin ang hangarin po ninyo to peacefully protest against corruption. But what if there are more sinister actors that might take advantage of your movement, just like in September 21, na hindi lang po natuloy according to reports. What if that happens, that people take advantage of this opportunity to swing it in a direction that leads to something extra constitutional?
Yeah. So, kaya ang aming ginagawa, halimbawa, we organized the one in EDSA, yung Church Leaders Council for National Transformation. We are the ones who organized the one in EDSA. And to make sure na hindi ito mapapasukan ng mga people who will take advantage of the situation, we coordinate with proper government authorities. Kaya mahalaga yun na we coordinate with the military, with the police, with the local government units para mabantayan natin. And yung mga kasama natin sa pagmamarcha sa kalye, tinitingnan natin na kanya-kanyang bantayan, kanya-kanyang tingnan para nung makita natin, halimbawa doon sa EDSA rally noong September 21, may ibang politikong pumasok. Yung mga tao na mismo ang nagsabing, hindi kayo pwede dito. They booed some of the political leaders na gustong pumunta. Tapos, we police our own ranks. We try to help that. Yung nangyari doon sa after the rally sa Luneta, I cannot comment on the details of that because on our part, we actually just organized the one in EDSA. From the people, EDSA Shrine to the People's Power.
Bishop, meron na po nag-commit for this one, the weekly protest ng mga barangays, communities, and
we have 115 network organizations, civil society organizations nakasama. So ang main convener is Church Leaders Council for National Transformation, composed of bishops from the Catholic Church, from the Evangelical Church, from the mainline Protestants, and we have also invited the other Muslims to come and join us. So yun ang main convener, pero meron pang ibang major yung mga co-conveners na kasama namin. Tapos, there are at least now 115 different civil society organizations na nagsabing sama kami dyan.
So 6 o'clock po ngayong araw na ito, gaano katagal po yung pag-iingay at pagkakalampag ng kaldero?
Ay siguro mga 15 minutes yan mag-iingay.
So 6 o'clock to 6:15?
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Para makapagluto yung mga tao.
Oo. Alam mo, ang nangyari ngayon sa atin aywan ko na sa inyo at ng vlog nakita ko yun na may nagpapalit ng pera doon sa
Sa nanay ko po yun. Nanay ko po
nanay
yun.
mo yun.
Oo.
Ay, di ba? Nakakahiya na tayo. Oo, di ba?
Oo, medyo-
Naapektuhan yung mga inosente, naapektuhan. At sasabihin, Pilipino kayo, baka galing sa corruption pera ang dala.
Sabi ko nga ho, ito pong nangyari po sa aking ina ay mararanasan, no? Ng kahit sinong Pilipino, mula sa mayaman hanggang sa down to the ordinary Filipino, ay lahat may kailangan ng pagpapalit ng pera and to be told that you cannot avail of something because of corruption and money laundering, parang you'll be set aback kasi parang na-judge kahit ikaw ay walang kasalanan, lahat kayo, no? Damay-damay na to.
Damay-damay.
Damay-damay na lahat po tayo ay involved talaga dito at we hope to find solutions for this. Pero ang learning po namin ay yung kaya nga i-bringing up natin yan sa publiko para sa mga gustong bumiyahe, hindi na nila kailangan daanan yung ganong pagpapahiya. Kasi, syempre, pag ikaw ay nagpapalit ng pera, and you have to go through all of that, no? Might as well, dito ka na lang magpapalit o kaya magdala ka na lang ng credit card o ng ATM mo para hindi mo na daanan yun. But, again, sabi ko nga, tayo pa rin ba mag-a-adjust? Di ba? Dapat yung gobyerno naman.
Alam mo, ang nakakalungkot dito, Gretchen, halimbawa, kung magpapa-ingkas, halimbawa, aming opisina magpapa-ingkas ng pera doon sa aming messenger o sa layas doon sa bangko, tatawag pa yon ang bangko. Confirm ba ito? Kaya sabi ko, gano'n kalaki yung perang pinapa-ingkas ng aming messenger? Itong trillion, daang
Ganun lang ho.
billion,
Oo.
ganun lang. Wala bang, di ba may threshold ang AMLAC na 500,000 dapat magkakaroon ng magre-raise ng flag. Bakit ito kaya nilang mag-withdraw ng cash na
Bishop, we are with you in your call for accountability, and we do hope we do all of these protests peacefully, and so we wish that and pray for that with your group, and we will watch out for the latest. No, maraming salamat for joining us on Morning Matters today
thank
and
you,
explaining.
Gretchen,
that will start today, every Friday, White
that will
Friday
start today.
protest until November 30.
Ito, white. Kaya nga white. Wala kaming we don't favor any political organization. White, because we are against corruption, which is a mark of integrity, accountability, transparency. At maraming salamat na you are giving us this opportunity.
Thank you very much to the Evangelical Churches of the Philippines. Bishop, we have Bishop Efraim Tendero.
Thank you, Gretchen. God bless you.
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day and the weekend matter. My name is Gretchen Hall. We are One News, all sides, all the time.